everybody, and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. This is the day after United have beaten Liverpool 3-2 in the FA Cup at Old Trafford. Fantastic result for United. I was desperate for them to get through. I know Ollie, I know the manager wants to stay in as many trophies as he can. We're still in the FA Cup. Obviously, it was a right tough fixture draw in Liverpool. We could easily have gone out, and to still be in it is a bonus. So, you know, top of the league, still in the FA Cup. Pity they got knocked out in the Champions League and they're in the Europa League now, and that starts again pretty soon. But we are still in for three major trophies, and long may that continue. So it was a fantastic win. I'm going to do the ratings any second now. First of all, I've noticed that West Ham got through, by the way. It was already drawn, obviously, to try and work round the fixtures and make sure they got more time to fit them all in. They drew two rounds at once, didn't they? Which helps them organise the fixture list. So we already knew that we had West Ham in the next round of the Cup if we were to get through, which obviously we did get through. And I've noticed on the fixture list, I don't know if this is going to change. I don't think it's going to. But that game against West Ham is a midweek game, which is unusual for the FA Cup. I think the whole fixture list for the FA Cup of the next round is a midweek fixture list. So we're playing West Ham on February the 10th. But we're playing Everton in the league on February the 8th. So there's only one full day's rest in between the two games. And February the 8th is a Monday and February the 10th is a Wednesday. Now, the previous game to the Everton game is against Southampton, which is on February the 2nd. So there's a full 5 days. It's actually 6 days from one game starting to the next game starting, but I'm talking about full days off. There's actually 5 full days off between Southampton and Everton, and only 1 full day off between Everton and West Ham. Now, I know they have to fit around the fixture list. Other teams have obviously got to fit around each other. I appreciate that, you know, it's TV schedules and all sorts of things. But surely it'd be sensible for United to, it must be doable somehow or another for United to be playing Everton on either Saturday the 6th or the 7th of February, rather than playing on a Monday and a Wednesday, having 1 day in between, especially when before that Everton game there's 5 full empty days. So it seems like I appreciate the more success you have, the more cups you stay in, the more you are going to have a fixture backlog, and you are going to have a fixture pile up, if you like. But that seems to me as though there's a little bit of a fixture pile up, 2 games in 3 days, that doesn't really need to be there. I don't get it, and it must, you know, Ollie must be kicking himself looking at that and thinking, why on earth can't we play Saturday or Sunday and then play on the Tuesday on the Wednesday against West Ham instead of Monday and Wednesday. Anyway, the Liverpool game, great win, 3-2 win. Here's the ratings from the Manchester Evening News from that game. Don't forget, by the way, I said I'd remind people for the first 2 or 3 times that I do it. I've got my new ratings. I'll start at number. It starts at number 1, absolutely shocking. 4 is poor, 5 is average, 6 is decent or above average, 7 is good, or, you know, if you want to say he played well, that's good to me. 8 is very good, 9 is outstanding, and 10 is virtually unachievable. So I do compare my marks to that. Obviously, the Evening News people might have their own, what they call, you know, compared to their numbers, if you like, their little list. But they've given Henderson a 6. They've said he stood up to Mohamed Salah, but was craftily beaten in the first half. 2 porous in letting in Salah's second. He was really close in, Salah, when he hit that second one. I think it's a little bit over the top, criticising him for that, and he made crucial stops at 2-2. I don't think there was much different he could have done. It would have been a really good save if he'd have saved that second one. He didn't have much chance with the first one. So I would say, as I say, looking at my ratings, is it fair to say that Henderson played well? I would say it is. So I'm giving Henderson a 7 compared to their 6. Anyone who saw me with flex on my fan cam will probably know that I gave Aaron Wan-Bissaka my man of the match. I thought he had a good game. And they've said iffy again, and appeared to be targeted by Liverpool's combination of Andy Robertson and Curtis Jones. Much more secure in the second half. I thought he played pretty well all the way through. They've given him a 6. And as I say, 8 is very good on my ratings. And I've given Wan-Bissaka an 8. I thought he had a very good game. Thought he was exciting going forward. He was solid at the back. Misplaced a couple of passes, of course. If you was going to mark everybody a 5 or a 6 who misplaced a couple of passes, hardly anybody would ever get more than 5 or 6. It's as simple as that. So yeah, of course he misplaced a couple of passes, but overall I thought he was solid. I thought his passing was decent. He's come on a treat over the last few months, I think, Adam Wan-Bissaka, and deservedly so. I've watched the game again, by the way, as I always say. There were a couple of slack passes that I thought maybe I didn't realise at first, but not enough for me to say, well, he didn't have a very good game. So yeah, Alan Wan-Bissaka to me gets an 8. Victor Lindelof did give him a 6. 6 is decent or above average. Well, I think he played well, Victor Lindelof. I thought both the centre-backs played well. They've given Victor a 6 and they've given Harry a 6. They've said his body shape was awry for Salah's opener and he dropped too far back to play the Egyptian onside. Some decent last-ditch defending in the second half. I'd have to study the goal again to say if he could have done much different. You know, you're playing against top players here. Salah found a little bit of space in between. The defenders try to keep the gap small. That's what they do. If you look at that goal again, Luke Shaw just has a quick look over his shoulder because Trent Alexander's free right out on the right touchline. And whether that just prevents Luke from taking another stride in field, I'm not sure. He looks at him, realises he's free, but then realises Salah is the most dangerous man. He doesn't just realise it there and then. It's obvious he's the most dangerous man. He's very close to the goal, whereas Trent's free on the right touchline. So he just puts a quick couple of strides in, Luke Shaw, but it's too late, and Salah is through the gap. But like I say, it was Firmino that passed it to him. It was Salah that scored the goal. You're playing against absolutely top players, you know, league champions and European champions. Maybe they're not right on bang on form now, but they don't lose the quality overnight. So I think to criticise him too heavily and to knock a mark off for that, I think is a little bit harsh. I would definitely say, well, they had to play well. Okay, Liverpool scored twice, but they had to play well, the defenders, to get through that game. So I think Victor Lindelof had a good game. And that's all I'm saying. Did he play well? Answer that question. I would say yes, he played well. So Victor Lindelof gets a 7. Harry Maguire have given a 6-2. They said another committed performance against an innovative Liverpool attack with Roberto Firmino deeper than usual, and they've given him a 6. Well, I thought he was worth a 7. I thought Harry Maguire played well, so I've given him a 7. Luke Shaw, they've actually given a 7. They've put culpable for Salah's goal, so they've not knocked a mark off Luke, but they did off Lindelof. Culpable for Salah's goal. Salah got 2 goals. But otherwise excellent again, and it is safe to say that Shaw is United's corner taking panacea, however you pronounce that. I think it means he's a good corner taker, or he's the kingpin for corner taking. Luke Shaw also almost got a challenge in on Salah when Salah scored his 2nd goal, and Salah is Luke Shaw's man. So I'm going to stick with the 7 that they've given him because he did so much good, but Luke Shaw won't be happy. You know, he's playing left back, he's marking Salah. Salah could hardly get a kick the week before at Anfield. To be fair, Anthony Martial played a deeper role than Marcus Rashford's played. There's more, obviously it was 0-0 last week. It was 3-2 this week. It's not a coincidence. Plenty of goals in this week's game, and Martial was given that job of tracking back Trent Alexander last week. So it's just tighter. All the spaces are tighter because you're playing that little bit deeper. So it was a little bit easier for Luke Shaw last week than it was this week. So he probably did play equally as well. But you know, when you're a fullback or any defender and your man scores twice, you're not going to be happy. But did he play well? I would say yeah. I think Luke Shaw played pretty well, and I think it might be a bit harsh criticising him on the 2nd goal. He could have done perhaps a touch better. He could have been a little bit sharper on the 1st goal. But yeah, I'll agree with that. He had a good game, and I'd agree with the 7. Now, Scott McTominay in midfield, they've given a 5-2, and Paul Pogba, they've given a 7-2. I'm going to speak about them both at the same time, and the reason I'm going to speak about them both at the same time is I've seen a lot of people saying that McTominay had a poor game, and you know, an equal amount of people saying how well Paul Pogba played, and I'm going to read what these have said in the Evening News. Bearing in mind that they've given Scott a 5 and they've given Paul a 7. I'm giving them both an 8. An 8 is very good. Did they have very good games? I'll say they did. You know, we're playing against a top side with lots of defending to do, and we managed to get through this game and beat Liverpool. And there's a lot of good play, solid defensive play, as well as decent passing. You can't expect your people to be scoring and making goals left, right and centre. But I'm going to tell you a couple of things that are written down here. The first thing about Scott McTominay, they've put 5 out of 10, and they've written, got crowded out a few times by Liverpool's midfield. That's probably true. I've just watched the game and I've just studied it carefully. He got dispossessed in his own half once. So did Paul Pogba though. They're not saying that about Paul. He got dispossessed in his own half once. But when he got dispossessed, the ball was given to him and it was a bit of a tight area. And he had to move it quickly and try and get out of that tight area. Whereas when Paul got dispossessed, he was given to it in space and he held onto it a bit too long and people got onto him and dispossessed him. It was a bigger mistake by Paul than it was by Scott. And then the best passes of the game, the best forward passes of the game, you might remember them. Scott McTominay got a ball in our right back area in the first half, and he put a great ball all the way down the touchline that Van der Beek chased it. You probably will remember it because Van der Beek ended up in a dangerous position, and the commentator said he was surprised he didn't try and do something else. Van der Beek chased it up the touchline and collected it and turned back and passed it backwards. And so there was that pass. Also, quite late in the game, he won the ball in his own half, McTominay, and drove forward and played the ball down the left touchline. He played equally as many good balls as Paul did, and Paul played some good balls, of course he did. And I just think there's something out there. I don't get it why people are saying Scott McTominay isn't playing well or doesn't play well. Another thing, and they just get onto it. For example, the next thing. So they got crowded out a few times by Liverpool's midfield, no more so than Paul did. Had decent opportunities at 1-1, it says. He had 2 opportunities. I'm only comparing him to Paul because they're both playing in the same position. They're both playing as central midfield players, Scott slightly to the right and Paul slightly to the left. So they said he had decent opportunities at 1-1. The 2 opportunities that they're talking about, one's a header from a corner. Well, Paul also had a header from a corner. And if you watch the game, if you replay the game again, Scott's header from the corner that he got to is just ever so slightly leaning back and having to try and get the purchase on the ball. Whereas the one that Paul heads over the bar, he's stepping onto it. Paul's chance is a much easier header. I don't think they mentioned that. No, they don't. Did you see? They don't. Why say something about one player and not about another? Paul's headed chance is slightly easier. Not much, but it is. It's slightly easier than Scott's. And it says it's plural here. It says he had decent opportunities, Scott McTominay, at 1-1. He also had a shot from the edge of the box. Paul had 3 shots. Paul's 3 shots. One was a free kick that went about 2 yards wide. One was a shot where Greenwood laid it back to him. It went about a yard wide. And then he had another shot where the ball, somebody put it into the box. It got cleared out of the box. It came to him just outside the box and he tried to shoot and he scuffed it and it bounced pretty meekly and they cleared it easily. So he had 3 shots. None of them particularly, 2 off target and 1 pretty weak and scuffed. Scott McTominay had 1 shot from just outside the box. I'm not saying it was a thunderous Bobby Charlton style effort, but it was a decent effort. It was a crowded box. He really got some decent venom behind it. They did manage to clear it, but it was a really crowded box. So they mention in here that Scott had decent opportunities at 1-1. They're not saying that about Paul, whereas Scott had 1 header that was a bit tougher header than Paul's header, and he had 1 shot that was better than all 3 shots that Paul had. So I don't know why they're mentioning it. I really don't. Poor use of the ball they finished off with. So they're really going in on Scott McTominay for no reason. So then let's read what they said about Paul. Grew into the game after a slow start, but United's looseness in midfield saw Pogba move to the right. So they're giving Paul a 7, they're giving Scott a 5, and yet it's Paul they're actually suggesting that because the midfield was slack, that we moved Paul out to the right, because they brought Fred on, didn't they? So he's put under Liverpool and decisively ducks out of the way for the free kick. I don't get that. He's not going to clear that free kick, is he? But there you go. It was decisive that he ducks out of the way. But I thought they both played well, and I don't think there's much to choose between them, and I've studied it really closely. I don't think there's much to choose between them. I might just say that Paul might have been just a tad better, but very, very little in it. And I would say an 8 each. I thought they both played very well. I thought our engine room in this game was going to be absolutely vital, and it was vital. They've got Thiago, who's just won the European Cup in midfield. They've got Wijnaldum, who's won the league and the European Cup in the last couple of seasons, and they've got Firmino dropping back as a false nine. They had the work cut out at the weekend, Scott McTominay and Paul Pogba, and I think they both deserve an 8, and both played very well. Mason Greenwood, they've given a 7-2. I don't quite agree with that. I would say he had a decent game. Did he play well or very well? I would say he had a decent game, Mason Greenwood. They've put his decision making was poor at the first 2 opportunities, but finished cleanly from the third, substituted just after the hour. That's what they've written. Decision making was poor. The one that he should have pulled back to Van der Beek, and you can see Cavani on the screen sort of waving at him or gesticulating at him. Why didn't you pull it back? There was a defender who positioned himself really well, made it a bit of an awkward pullback, but it's a bit of a tricky one. Obviously when you don't score, you've got to say it might have been worth pulling it back. On another day, it might have gone in for him. But he wasn't involved enough in the game for me, Mason. He often isn't on the right. He did take his goal brilliantly. As I always say, scoring a goal doesn't necessarily mean you've had a good game or a particularly great game. Just as like making one big mistake doesn't necessarily mean you've had a poor game. So overall, despite scoring and he got an assist. Sometimes luck goes with you, by the way. Why that defender missed it, I've got no idea, but he does get an assist, obviously. But the defender should have cleared it. There's a lot of luck involved there. But Mason did okay, perfectly fine, took his goal well, plus ended up with an assist. I would say he had a decent game. I'm not saying that he played very well or particularly well. He had a decent game. I would say a 6 for Mason. Van der Beek, they've given a 5-2. To me, there's too much of a discrepancy there. Mason 7 and Donny van der Beek 5. Started slickly and did not look out of place as the 10 against the champions for spells, but faded and was predictably withdrawn in the second half. Faded, I'm not too sure about that. We were under a bit of a cosh second half. I'm not too sure that he faded. I thought he was just doing all right. He keeps it dead simple. I've got nothing wrong with people keeping it simple, but there's a difference between just simple and also being bright. Some of the little angles that he finds with the passes are pretty clever. He sees things quickly as well. The opening goal, our opening goal, Pogba won a good tackle just outside the box and the ball was loose for a second and Donny van der Beek was onto it and he didn't take a touch. His first touch was a pass. It was a one-touch pass, not one touch and a pass. It was a first touch pass straight out to Rashford, and Rashford pinged it across the field for Greenwood to end up scoring. I believe we've got some players who would not have played a first touch pass. They would have took a touch and then looked to pass it. So you can't underestimate the value of seeing the passes quickly. And I think Donny van der Beek marking him as a 5, which is only average. I think everybody had to play at least decent and decent to above average, which is a 6 for me. So I would give Donny van der Beek a 6. He was involved in the game a bit more than Mason, for example. And although Mason scored, I think Donny deserves at least the same mark, a 6 as well. Marcus, they've given a 7-2 and a 7 is well, played well. I would agree with that. They've put often selfish again. I didn't really see that. Often selfish again. I know they said that the other night, I think, or was it the game before? But had Liverpool constantly on the back foot, found Greenwood for the leveller before he made it 2-1. A lot of people giving Marcus Man of the Match award for that game. I noticed on the TV they gave it Paul Pogba, by the way. But a lot of people in the papers have said Marcus was Man of the Match. I've just watched the game really closely again. He went on 2 or 3 good runs. He played perfectly decently. You know, he played quite well, but nothing for me to sort of make me say, yeah, he was brilliant or really good. He just did a few good things. You've got to do a few good things. He also did a few poor things, but took his goal really well, got an assist as well. I would say a 7. I would just say he played well. There's no so they've said a 7. I'll agree with that. So Marcus a 7. He played well. Edison Cavani they've given a 6 to. Edison Cavani to me had a better game than Marcus Rashford. He's much more involved. His work rate's fantastic. And as I've said, and I keep saying it, making one mistake doesn't mean you've played badly. Just like doing one really good thing doesn't mean you've played well. But he did make a poor mistake, Edison, and. The ball that came out to him, and he tried a first time pass out to the wing when he had time to take a touch. They've given him a 6. I will say he played well, certainly played well for me, Edison Cavani, rather than just average or decent. I thought he played well, so I've given him a 7. They've said a fine focal point. I don't mark the substitutes, unless they get half a game, but I am going to mention the substitutes. I'm not marking them, but I'm going to say what they've said in the evening news, because it's relevant to this. They've written a fine focal point about Cavani, who energised United's attack in the absence of the lethargic Anthony Martial. Well, first of all, Anthony Martial didn't play, so obviously he wasn't lethargic yesterday. Well, he come on as a sub, he did all right. But what did he mean by that? First of all, the last 2 games, Liverpool away and Fulham away, Anthony Martial's played on the left wing. So he wasn't playing in place of Anthony Martial. Anthony Martial played on the left wing. At Anfield, Marcus Rashford played at number 9. And then against Fulham, Edison Cavani played at number 9. So if he's playing in anybody's position, if he's in place of anybody else, he was in place of Marcus Rashford. Anthony Martial played on the left wing the previous 2 games. So that's the first thing. They've also mentioned him careless with the equaliser, but won the free kick. But just, I'll finish with Edison on that. I think a 7. I thought he played well. But just because they're putting the knife into Anthony Martial there, he played in the absence of the lethargic Anthony Martial. I'm going to read what they've said about the substitutes in the Manchester Evening News. I get it that they played for longer, Fred and Bruno. They both got about 25 minutes. But Fred, they've given him a 7. Helped shore up the midfield, and Liverpool lost momentum. That's what they've put. I don't think Liverpool lost momentum. I've just watched the game again. Okay, we had a couple of breaks, but we were getting breakaways all the way through the game. So I don't think Liverpool lost momentum. We were hanging on a little bit, just like we were before he came on. Same with Bruno. Everyone said he changed the game. I've just watched it again. Okay, we got a couple of breakaways. Bruno put a cross in, we hit the post. That was after we were leading though, so obviously they throw a little bit of caution to the wind, don't they? That would have made it 4-2. I don't think there was any change in the game. We got a free kick, we scored a goal, which was brilliant, over the moon that we got through, over the moon that we've beaten them. But I don't think there was any difference in our team after the substitutes were made. So Bruno they've given a 7 to. Then they've given Anthony Martial a 5. That's why I wanted to mention the substitutes, and they just replaced Rashford late on. I do understand, that's why I don't mark subs. I do understand that it's difficult to mark a substitute when he's played, I think he got about 7 minutes plus injury time, 6 or 7 minutes. He might have played 10 minutes in total. It's difficult to mark somebody on 10 minutes, but what's fair? If you're going to mark someone on 10 minutes, is it not fair just to look at what they actually did in that 10 minutes rather than, what's the point of marking him if you're just going to say, well, he only got 10 minutes, so he isn't worth an 8 or he isn't worth a set, what's the point of marking someone if you're not going to take it from what they actually did while they were on the field? So they've given him a 5, and I've just watched it for, okay, he only played for 10 minutes, but he didn't put a foot wrong. So you've got to give him, if you're going to mark him, you've got to give him more than a 5. So I think that I've seen this before in a few papers. So they've even mentioned him when they've talked about Cavani, and then they've also given him a 5 compared to the other substitutes who got a 7. So that's that. I will I will do a player in focus, and I will put I'll tell you what, I will decide who's going to be on that player in focus as I'm doing it. So I will put 4 players up for player in focus for tomorrow, up on Rick the Red UK on Twitter, and people can vote on that. And then tomorrow I'll have a look at that particular player's game and put a few clips on Twitter of how that player played and what he actually did in the match. So that's it. We threw in the cup. We've got Sheffield United in the league. Concentrate on the league now. There's about 4 league games, I think, before we play West Ham. So praying we can even stretch our lead. Sheffield United on Wednesday. I always say this. I know the players, the staff, the coaches, they've got to take it one game at a time. I love the fact that they always say that. I've heard 2 or 3 of the players in interviews saying all we're looking at is the next game. They've got to be like that. They've got to concentrate. They've got to do their absolute utmost to get the 3 points against Sheffield United before they think about anything else whatsoever. But we're just fans, and I'm really looking forward to this Arsenal game on Saturday. But they've got to concentrate. They've got to get the 3 points against Sheffield United, and then hopefully we move into that Arsenal game, still top of the league and full of confidence. I hope you've enjoyed that show. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Please tell all your friends. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anybody. Keep stum.